Picture this. You walk into the most secure military command center on the base, surrounded by admirals and generals covered in medals and ribbons, and everyone assumes you're nobody important, just another low-ranking officer there to take notes or fetch coffee. But what if I told you that the person they read dismissing is actually the ghost they all thought was dead, the legend whose actions saved hundreds of lives? Stay with me, because what happens in the next few minutes will completely change how you think about respect, leadership, and the people who earn it without ever asking for it. Before we dive deeper into this incredible moment, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're tuning in from right now. I genuinely love connecting with people from all over the world who find these stories as powerful as I do. Alright, let's get back to it. The war room felt heavy that afternoon, not from the tactical equipment lining the walls or the massive digital displays showing troop movements and satellite imagery. No, the heaviness came from something else entirely. It was the kind of tension that builds when too many egos occupy the same space, when rank becomes a weapon instead of a responsibility. The air conditioning hummed overhead, pushing cool air through the vents, making the fluorescent lights sway just slightly. If you've ever been in a room where something significant is about to happen, you know that feeling. That electric charge that makes your skin prickle. That's exactly what was happening here. She stood near the back wall, hands clasped behind her spine. Posture perfect, eyes forward. Her uniform was plain, deliberately so. No flashy decorations, no chest full of medals screaming for attention. Just a simple jacket, clean and pressed, with minimal insignia. To anyone glancing her way, she looked like she barely belonged in that room. Maybe an ID, maybe someone's assistant. Definitely not someone who should be making decisions about national security. And that's exactly what General Rhodes thought when he spotted her. Now, let me paint you a picture of General Rhodes. Imagine the kind of officer who's climbed the ranks more through connections than actual field experience. The type who mistakes his title for wisdom and his position for respect. He sat at the conference table, chair tilted back, arms crossed, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never being seriously challenged. He'd spent the last 20 minutes dominating the briefing, talking over junior officers, dismissing suggestions, making sure everyone knew he was the smartest person in the room. When his eyes landed on her, something shifted in his expression. Smirk. That particular kind of smirk that says, "I've found an easy target." He cleared his throat loudly enough to command attention. Several officers turned to look. "So, Lieutenant," he said, drawing out the rank like it was an insult. "Remind me again what exactly your rank is, because I'm having trouble figuring out why you're even here." The room went quiet, but not the good kind of quiet. It was the uncomfortable silence that happens when someone crosses a line and everyone knows it, but nobody wants to intervene. A few officers shifted in their seats. Someone coughed. A young analyst near the computer terminals looked down at her keyboard, clearly embarrassed on the woman's behalf. But she didn't react. Not immediately. She simply stood there, breathing steadily, her expression unchanged. Inside, though, a different story was unfolding. Should she speak? Should she defend herself? She'd spent years trying to disappear, trying to serve without recognition, trying to avoid exactly this kind of moment. After everything that happened during that mission, the one that nearly destroyed her, she'd wanted nothing more than anonymity. She'd earned the right to fade into the background. Rhodes wasn't finished. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, grin widening. "What's the matter?" "Nothing to say. Or maybe nobody taught you how to address superior officers." He gestured toward her uniform dismissively. "I mean, seriously, look at that jacket. You couldn't even bother to wear something appropriate to a strategic briefing. If you're going to be in this room, at least try to look like you belong here." Laughter rippled through some of the younger officers, the ones who didn't know better, who were following Rhodes' lead because they thought that's what they were supposed to do. The kind of nervous laughter that people use to blend in, to avoid becoming the next target. But not everyone was laughing. Across the table, tucked into the corner near the strategic maps, sat Admiral Hoy. He was old, probably the oldest person in that room, with deep lines carved into his face from decades of service. His hair was white, his uniform decorated with honors from conflicts most people only read about in history books. His hands, resting on the table, had begun to tremble. Not from age, from recognition. He was staring at her. Really staring, the way someone looks at a face they never expected to see again. The way veterans look at photographs of fallen comrades. The way you look at a ghost. The young cadet sitting beside Hoy noticed the change immediately. He watched the Admiral lean forward, squinting, studying her features like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then Hoy's expression shifted. His eyes widened just slightly. His grip tightened on the cane resting against his chair. "General Rhodes," Hoy said, his voice thin but cutting through the room like a blade. "Do you have any idea who you're speaking to?" Rhodes rolled his eyes, clearly annoyed at being interrupted. An officer who apparently doesn't understand uniform regulations. "Why should I?" Hoy didn't answer right away. Instead, he pushed himself up from his chair, slowly, deliberately. His cane scraped against the floor as he steadied himself. The casual chatter in the room died instantly. Officers exchanged confused glances. The intelligence tech stepped back from her monitors, sensing something significant was happening but not understanding what. Sunlight poured through the reinforced windows, cutting across the floor in sharp angles, illuminating dust particles in the air. The way the light hit created an almost theatrical effect, like the room itself was holding its breath. Hoy took a step toward her, then another. His cane tapped against the tile floor, each sound echoing in the silence. His breathing had become audible, heavier, as if the physical act of walking was less difficult than the emotional weight of what he was about to do. When he finally reached her, standing just a few feet away, he didn't salute. That would have been too formal, too distant. Instead, he bowed his head, a gesture of profound respect that military protocol doesn't really have a name for. Then, he spoke. Quietly, almost reverently, he said a name. Not her real name. Erko Name, the one that doesn't appear in any official documents. The one that only exists in classified communications and whispered conversations among soldiers who served in the worst combat zones. The name that represented the commander who led an impossible extraction mission 5 years ago. The commander who saved an entire battalion from a desert ambush that should have been a massacre. The commander everyone believed had died in the aftermath. The commander standing right in front of them. Rhodes went pale. "That's not possible," he stammered. "She's dead. That mission." Everyone died. But even as he said it, the truth was spreading through the war room like wildfire. Understanding dawned on face after face. Mouths fell open. Eyes widened. One admiral stood up, then another, then another. Chairs scraped against the floor as officer after officer rose to their feet. Hands lifted to foreheads in perfect salutes, held there, unwavering. The sunlight caught the gold insignias on their uniforms, reflecting little points of light across the walls. The moment felt suspended, almost sacré. This wasn't about protocol or ceremony. This was about recognition, about respect earned through sacrifice, about honoring someone who had carried the weight of hundreds of lives and succeeded when failure seemed certain. And she, who had orchestrated one of the most daring rescue operations in modern military history, who had led her team through enemy territory with zero support and impossible odds, who had lost part of herself in the process, stood there trying to maintain her composure. Her breathing had become shallow. Her eyes were stinging. She'd never wanted this, never wanted recognition or glory or attention. She only wanted to continue serving, to keep protecting people, to use her skills without the burden of being a symbol. General Rhodes sat frozen in his chair, his face flushed with embarrassment and something deeper, maybe shame. "Ma'am," he finally managed, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know. I had no idea." She looked at him then, really looked at him. But there was no anger in her eyes, no desire for revenge or humiliation, just a calm, steady gaze that somehow made the moment more powerful than any rebuke could have been. "Then maybe," she said softly, "you should start learning who protects you before you decide who matters." She paused, letting that sink in. Not everyone wears their story on their chest. Not everyone needs recognition to do what's right. And the person you dismissed today might be the person who saved your life yesterday without you even knowing it. Outside, in the courtyard visible through those reinforced windows, cadets had stopped mid-stride. They'd noticed the unusual scene inside the war room. Dozens of high-ranking officers, Some of the most decorated leaders in the military, standing at attention, saluting a single woman. Word began to spread. Questions were asked, stories were shared, and something fundamental shifted in how those young cadets understood leadership. Because real respect, the kind that actually means something, isn't about the medals you wear or the rank on your shoulder. It's earned through actions, through sacrifice, through doing the right thing even when nobody's watching, even when you'll never get credit. It's proven in the hardest moments, in the decisions that cost you everything, and the willingness to carry others when they can't carry themselves. True authority doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention or require validation. It simply exists, quiet and unshakable. And the people who've faced the worst and somehow found the strength to protect others anyway. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room, the one everyone overlooks, the one nobody thinks twice about, is the very person who once held everything together when the world was falling apart. That's the real lesson here. That's what changed that room forever. Not the revelation of her identity, but the reminder that leadership isn't a costume you put on. It's who you are when everything is stripped away. It's what you do when nobody's keeping score. So, the next time you're quick to judge someone, quick to dismiss them based on appearance or rank or how much noise they make, remember this story. Remember that the person you're overlooking might be exactly the person you should be learning from. Remember that respect worth having is respect worth earning. And earning it means doing the work when it's hardest, when nobody's watching, when you'll never get the credit. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think differently about leadership or respect or the people around you, let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts. Tell me about a time when you underestimated someone or when someone underestimated you. These conversations matter. These stories matter because they remind us that being human means recognizing the humanity in others, especially the ones we're tempted to dismiss.